Hi, I'm Owen from the English Folk Dance and Song Society, and I'm here with Laura Smyth, who's playing at Cecil Sharp House on the 9th of March. So Laura, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I am the Library and Archives Director at the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library here, which means that I'm very, very lucky because in my day job I get to spend all of my time dealing with material which I would otherwise do in my hobby as well. So outside of work I am a singer and I'm also a dancer, so I do a bit of rapper and clog, but real passion is singing with my partner Ted Kemp.
So how did you and Ted come to be a performing duo?
Well, I met Ted when we were at library school together, which
That's so cool.
So we're both training to be librarians, and soon after finishing that course we then started dating. But throughout university I had been getting more interested in folk music, listening to a lot of folk rock bands to begin with, and then developing on from there. And I started to share some of that interest with Ted, who also had a bit of an interest in folk, although maybe not in the English material. And then we both started to develop an interest in it together, attending sing-arounds and sessions in Manchester, which is where we were living at the time. So we then started singing together when we were at folk clubs and at sing-arounds, and it kind of developed from there. So we were invited to do sort of short sets together, and then that eventually turned into doing full-blown gigs. So it wasn't so much a plan, it just sort of started to happen, which is very nice.
So you mentioned your Manchester roots.
Yeah.
Your EP is very much based around songs from that geographical area.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an important thing for you, sort of keeping that connection with your heritage?
Yeah, so when I first started listening to folk music, obviously that side wasn't a big factor for me. It was just that, you know, I found songs which seemed to have these fantastic stories and narratives and amazing tunes, and that was what really drew me in to begin with. But then you start to listen to songs that have a meaning to you, so you're like, well, I know those places, or, you know, there's things mentioned in there which are familiar, so that then starts to become a new interest. So I started to become more interested in finding those songs with that Manchester or Lancashire connection, and I decided to add that more into my repertoire, and plus it gave a kind of interesting angle as well to go in at, because there were quite a few songs to do with those areas which are maybe not so familiar, but yet they're still really good songs. So yeah, I really enjoy singing stuff that's got a Manchester connection. But then Ted, on the other hand, is from Suffolk, so he likes to do material from that area, which, you know, we did our EP, which is the Lancashire one. We were sort of wondering whether the next one should be a Suffolk EP, but not sure if that's going to happen. Maybe, but I think we're heading for an album next.
So how do you go about arranging songs instrumentally with Ted?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think a big part of folk music for me is the narrative and conveying that. So all of my favourite singers, Luke Killen, Frankie Armstrong, Mary Humphreys and Anna Hatter, people like that, they're all really powerful storytellers, so the most important thing for them is to convey that story or to convey the message in the song. So that's my first approach. Is I always start off by just learning the song and just singing it unaccompanied, and then check to see, well, if we do want to add any arrangement to it, what's actually going to complement that story or help me to convey the message better. So we're not that keen on having really fussy over arrangements of songs. That's not our thing. So it's usually quite simple arrangements, not overpowering. But I guess obviously we're limited to the instruments that we actually play. So I play English concertina and a bit of cello, and Ted plays lots of string instruments like banjo and guitar. So working with those to see if it actually complements it, and then we argue a bit over it.
I think increasingly over the last sort of 10 years or so, it seems that on the folk scene there's been an increasing focus put on sort of virtuosity and composing and sort of complex arrangements in songs, which I guess kind of works really well as a professional band when you're recording and touring and playing in big venues. Do you think, as great as a lot of that music is, do you think there's ever a tension there between sort of where these songs came from and what they've become?
Oh, you can't ask me a question like that. Yes, I suppose so. I mean, if you look at what allowed folk songs to enter into an oral tradition, it's often songs which could be held up on their own without accompaniment. People would be singing these in solo voice, so the songs themselves had to have a good enough tune and a good enough story for people to want to sing them unaccompanied. So the arrangement isn't necessarily important, or wasn't as important to people back then perhaps as it is now. So sometimes I think it is a bit of a shame, because sometimes the songs do get lost in over arrangements with an accompaniment or a tune to go with it. Plus, I think sometimes the emphasis on arrangement it can be unnecessary, as if the singer themselves, if they are able to put some heart into the song, if they're able to convey that message. I mean, if you think about some of the great singers from the folk revival, like Peter Bellamy, he wasn't a great musician by any means, but he was a fantastic singer, and he put passion into his songs. And the fact that so many people will rate him as one of their favourite singers just goes to show that actually sometimes the arrangement isn't the be-all and end-all. It's actually making sure that you can convey the message in the song and sing it with passion and heart.
So, as we've mentioned a couple of times, you are the director of the Vaughan Williams Memorial Library. Tell us about some of the exciting stuff which is happening in the library at the moment.
Wow, there's lots of exciting stuff actually. I've been involved recently in putting on some library lectures, which is fantastic, and also I'm getting more involved in organising conferences. So we've got a great Appellation conference coming up in July this year. So this year marks the centenary of when Cecil Sharp first went collecting with Maud Carpley's in the Appalachian Mountains in America. Also lots of other little projects rumbling on. So we're always trying to make new collections accessible, often via the website. So there's Carpenter collection, which I won't go into too much detail about because we're still working on it, but that might be coming. We might be doing something with that soon. And also we've been digitising the library's broadside collection, the Mary Neal collection, and the Daisy Dakin collection. So they should be appearing on the website soon.
And what have you got planned in your musical life with Ted?
Well, we're hoping to record an album this year. That's our sort of big goal for the year. So that should be really good. As I said, we're sort of at the moment choosing which songs we want to be on the album. So there'll be a few arguments over that. And yeah, we've got a number of gigs coming up over the next year in some nice far-flung places like Cornwall and back up north in Grimsby, and we'll be going to Whitby Folk Festival later in the year.